fighting games as a product. This topic of discussion has been circulating Twitter recently, mostly because of this article that was written by 6wheatbix outlining why fighting games are bad products and how to improve that. I recommend reading through the article yourself and making your own opinions on it, of course. I didn't agree with everything that was said, but I wanted to share my thoughts and explain how the suggestion for how to improve this issue made by 6wheatbix themselves in the article has actually already been done by another game, okay? It's funny to talk about, but I'm going to explain to you guys in this video why this concept already exists, and he's absolutely right. More fighting games should have these elements to them. And also at the end of this video, I want to propose my own $1 million idea of how to make a good fighting game product. So I want to get right into this. Absolver to me is the answer to fighting games are bad products argument, which is raised here. And I'm surprised more companies haven't attempted to emulate it. The closest emulation I've seen is Street Fighter 6's World Tour mode, which is often cited as some of the best single player content we've had in fighting games in a long time. So the fact that it's only even taking a fraction of what Absolver has to offer kind of gives me the impression that the actual skeleton, the design skeleton of Absolver it's magical. It is just magical. And I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to try and describe to you guys why it's so good. So let me just outline to you guys what is Absolver, in case you've never heard of it, just before I elaborate. Absolver is a 3D fighting game Souls-like, which was released in 2017 by Slowclap, which is the same guys who did make Sifu and Rematch, which are definitely way more popular games, which I'm sure you've at least heard of one of those by now. The idea of the game is pretty simple, right? You are this martial arts student, and you are thrust upon this world to beat all the other bosses to prove that you're worthy of this ascension ritual, right? But what do I mean by it's a 3D fighting game Souls-like? The gameplay, I don't want to really get into the gameplay too much, as a fighting game. I don't want to go into the mechanics and stuff. That's not what this video is for. I want to do a very big video in the future doing like a retrospective on Absolver where I actually go into it a lot more depth. So I'm going to keep it kind of surface level here. But basically, it's a Souls-like in the sense of the world building is done similarly to Souls-likes. The gameplay wise, you're wandering through reconstructed linear levels where there are NPCs to fight, and as you progress you'll encounter what is essentially bonfires to checkpoint at, and you continue going on. Similarly to Dark Souls, it has an open world system. There are people just playing at the same time as you. You could be on the same instance and fighting the same mobs, the same monsters, the same, well, not monsters, but the same NPCs. You're all fighting on the same layer, basically. That is already very unique for a fighting game. You're all in this open world. You're all just running around this open world on these layers, and your idea is you're just trying to progress through. But there's a lot of other side missions as well, which, before I go into those, let's just talk a little bit more about what Absolver is. Absolver, it has a very heavy emphasis on martial arts. Essentially, you have your battle deck is the best way to describe it, which is all the moves you've learned, and you orientate them into like a move list. So you can organize like, okay, after I do this move, I want to do this move. You basically make your own Tekken strings using moves you've learned. And you can customize them however you like, really. You have 4 different stances and you swap between them using your moves. And you can basically create a move list to suit exactly how you want to play. And that is where the first bit of design magic really comes in, right? Is that I said this is moves you've learned. But how do you learn moves in this fighting game? How do you add moves to your battle deck? Like, I really want to learn this move. Like, I saw an enemy use it on me. How do I learn it? And this is where the genius designs comes through, right? Imagine you're playing a fighting game, right? Like, Tekken is the perfect example. And imagine if this was a Tekken game and you want to learn, I want to learn how to do like a hell sweep. Like, you see your NPC opponent do a hell sweep on you. And maybe your custom character has a very limited moveset and you're like, I want to unlock the Hell Sweep or the Electric or something like that, right? And in this game, to gain that move, you have to defend against it. You have to defend against this move. So if it was a Hell Sweep, you would have to learn how to block and then punish it. You'd have to learn how to block and punish it. And then every time you do that, you earn experience. You earn experience to be able to, when you defend against these moves correctly. If you just block them, and let's say you don't punish them or things like that, you still get some progress towards learning the move, but it's a much slower process. It's a much slower process. And this is just genius, right? Imagine like in Tekken and you are losing to this one string over and over again, right? Well, in order to unlock that string for yourself, you would have to know how to beat it, whether it's blocking it and then punishing, or whether it's ducking it and punishing. Like, you'd have to be able to defend against it correctly. So what does this translate to? It means that when you get to the point where you're fighting other people in this game, because you start off fighting NPCs and other people too, sure, you'll recognize the moves they use and you'll know how to beat them. You will know, oh, this one I have to dodge, I have to sidestep, I have to parry, I have to do this. Like you learn how to beat these moves before you're even fighting other people, because you want to unlock them. And like, you want to collect all the moves. Like, there's incentives there. Super genius design just from that. Another reason why that's so genius, right, is that this is a multiplayer game. This is an open world multiplayer game. Let's say I'm playing with my friends. We both we're both like in this open world. We're partnered up. And maybe he's been playing longer than me. Maybe he's played for like a week. He can fight me using new moves and teach me those moves. Teach me how to beat those moves at the same time. He could be like, okay, this boss has this move. I've unlocked it. You're going to learn how to defend against it. And it's it's so intuitive. It's so smart. Like, I was doing this without even realizing it when I was playing it back in 2017, I was doing this with my friends. And I didn't even realize it. He just wanted, like, my friends would just want to unlock this awesome axe kick move, right? He's like, oh, that looks really cool. Can you teach it to me? Yes. And it's a no stress environment. He just has to defend against it. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to do it in this string. Get ready to dodge it. Like, and then he sees the move. He learns to react. He sees the tells. And yeah, I mean, look, it's genius. Like, it truly is just genius. The next element of genius when it comes to Absolver is just how seamless it integrates the single player with the multiplayer experience. When you're playing regular fighting games, you have to decide to play online to be against an opponent, and that in itself, queuing up, can be quite stressful for people. In Absolver, you can be running around the open world and there could be another player that you just approach. You guys could be in the middle of fighting NPCs and you could start a fight amongst yourselves. Yeah, or maybe not. Maybe you work together to fight some of the various mini bosses around the world and you join up and be cooperative. And then, hey, maybe you find two other people trying to be cooperative and then you start fighting a 2v2. Like, it's so seamless. Like, because they're always around you, you're always almost at risk of being in a fight. It kind of normalizes you to the idea of fighting other people. And this works really well with this next step where, because you're so normalized with fighting other people, they can attach progression systems for the single player elements with the multiplayer competitive 1v1, 3v3 modes, basically. Once you actually get to beat all the bosses in Absolver and you get to that final boss, and the last boss is a serious challenge. Like, you really have to have understood the game mechanics to be able to beat this boss at the end of the game. And that's one thing that Absolver does really well as well, is that every boss is trying to teach you something that you can then apply in your PvP battles and things like that. You have to really understand the game mechanics at that point. You have to learn how to feint, you have to learn how to do your stamina management, you have to learn how to defend yourself and all of this, just to be able to progress through the single player story. So when you do finally get all of those skills and you beat the final boss, guess what? The game's not over. The game's not over. You basically enter this like new game plus sort of element. You get to free roam. The linearity is no longer really the case. You go back to the starting area. You ascend as as a student, and then essentially you get to fight all the bosses again. But the bosses are a lot harder now. They have new movesets, new moves to learn. There's a whole progression system with cosmetics and stuff to do with beating these bosses. You get new abilities, but you can't fight the bosses, these new game plus bosses, until you reach a certain rank online. It sounds ridiculous, I know, but seriously, you need to hit a certain rank online to be able to fight some of these bosses, which is this game design that people might think is a bit too abrasive. Like, you're forcing people to play online to progress through the single player story. And in reality, you can beat the game without interacting with these multiplayer elements. But if you want to really progress, you really enjoyed the game mechanics and you're going to stick around for this New Game Plus, you better be hopping online, man. You have to do the trials and you have to fight against other people and you have to gain ranked, which is obviously very generous. Like, as long as you're playing the game and you win every so often, you know, you do enter these 1v1 duels, and as long as you can win some, you can even enter team duels. You can do 3v3s. You can get carried if you want to, getting rank to be able to progress in the story. But that means you're caring enough to interact with those systems in the first place, right? If you're already at that point. But like I said, it's very generous, right? It's very generous. It so seamlessly integrates that single player progression with the multiplayer progression. Like, imagine in Street Fighter 6 in World Tour, if you couldn't fight or you couldn't learn some moves from Ken or whatever, or maybe the DLC characters, you had to actually hit gold rank first. You had to hit gold rank before you could get additional, you know, moveset slots, things like that. These are all things to consider. And there's also just value in playing the online stuff anyway. When you do a trial, when you do a 1v1, you do a 3v3, you gain cosmetics. Like, it's just like a loot box, like a random chance. Every time you win or lose, you get something. You get XP, you get cosmetics mostly. So there's always a reason, like, even if you lost, you might get something that was worthwhile, worth your time. So you never feel that bad. And like I said, you're already desensitized to the idea of fighting other people. So it's not that hard to sign up and fight other people randomly who obviously are going to be roughly your skill level. That's how a match makes you, etc., etc. And really, the cherry on top for me is that I've already told you a bit about Absolver and how the combat might work, or the fact that you have to unlock these moves and you create your own moveset. You create your, like, Tekken moveset based on things you've learned from the environment, from, you know, you players, things like that. Now, once you get to a high enough rank in the multiplayer aspect, you get to create your own school, like your own martial arts school. So if you are deemed good enough by the game, you can say, hey guys, this is my martial art, come and learn it. And I think that is just so sick. The sense of community, like, I remember setting up my own school, fighting people online, them being like, hey, that was a really cool martial art, like deck, whatever you want to call it. Can I learn it? And they can sign up to your school. They'll get like a prototype version of your martial art. They can't edit it, but they have to learn to use it. And you're the master. You can teach them. You can be like, okay, yeah, this is why I've done it this way. You got this light attack into this heavy attack. The heavy attack can armor through whatever they're trying to mash. If they're trying to do a reversal like mash or something, you can do this. If they're just going to sit and block, you can go for the unblockable. You know, you literally make up your own martial art, and the game doesn't tell you to do this, but naturally you progress and you want to teach people your martial art because you think it's good. It's clearly working for you. You got a high rank, and other people want to learn that from you. You know, it's like watching replays of high ranked players. People do that to learn how to play the game. This is like a new level to that. It's not just watching replays. You get the guy coaching you how to use your own damn moveset. And I don't know, man. Like, to me, this is the pinnacle of design when it comes to fighting games. And if you read through the article written by Sweetbix, you will see everything I just say come up in his suggestions. In his suggestions on how to design a fighting game in 2026 was done in 2017 by Absolver. And you know, you could argue, why didn't it pop off then? You know, obviously, I've never heard about this game. What happened? And there's a lot of reasons, right? I think it just wasn't marketed to the right people, if I'm honest. I doubt this was ever marketed as a fighting game. It was more marketed as a Souls-like, probably, which might have gone to the wrong crowd and things like that. Like, there's just various reasons. Marketing, Slow Clap at the time just didn't have that much prestige. They only had one other game under their belt, or one other major game under their belt. Nowadays, you know, they're seen a bit better. You know, they have a very unique art style, stuff like that. They don't Rematch, Seafood. They got quite a lot of under their name. So I think if you were to re-release Absolver in the year, you know, 2026, it would do way better, man. I think the design of this game, I'm begging you, anybody who plays fighting games, anyone who's designing fighting games, pull the skeleton from Absolver and put it into your single player fighting game experience. And you'd be very surprised. You'd be very surprised, I think. Like, I mean, it's so easy, right? Just I mentioned it about Tekken because it's a 3D game, which is the closest thing to Absolver. But you really can just port Tekken into this. Imagine in Tekken you had custom characters and you literally just had like Street Fighter World Tour. You just learnt their movesets from the characters and you could apply them to your movesets. But you couldn't do it immediately. You had to actually learn how to defend against the strings, the button, things like that. Like you had to maybe block the move a couple times. So you understand, you know, the frame data and stuff like that. To be able to add it to your moveset so that when you see someone else abusing this string, you might be like, oh, I've seen that. I need to learn to beat it. Or you're incentivized to learn to beat it because if you defend against it correctly, you get to apply it to your own deck. And then imagine if, you know, you had a school system where you make your own fighting style. You somehow make, I don't know, Shotokan karate. You recreate it into Tekken with all these movesets. You know, you take some stuff from Hwoarang and stuff like that and put it into Jin, and you could go crazy with it, right? And then you have this big amalgamation of a moveset that seems to be working for you. You know, it's Super Akuma's moveset, and now you can apply to learn from his school and you get to use that moveset. You don't have to learn it immediately. You get to use his entire moveset, and then maybe later down the line when you learn all those individual moves, you can customize them yourself and be like, oh, I don't really like this move. You know, you can make offshoots of these martial arts, which is what happens in real life, man. It's just this, I already said it a couple of times, but I can say it again, it's the pinnacle design. I need to see more of it, honestly. I need to see more of it. I need to see other games try this. And again, Street Fighter 6 World Tour pulled from this. You know, imagine if Street Fighter 6 World Tour, you're roaming around the streets and you can just start a fight with someone else's custom character. There's someone else's custom character right there. You can challenge them. They can't even run away. They go to fight you. And then if you win, hooray, yeah, whatever. You don't really get much. You get some XP, whatever, but you have fun. And that's kind of the big thing, right? I think even with the small amount that was imprinted into World Tour, it's done a number on the fighting game community in terms of, you know, single player content. It's really revolutionized it in some senses. But it is just perfect. I think it's the perfect way to integrate people from playing fighting games to playing competitive fighting games. I know a lot of people who did play Absolver who, you know, kind of got into fighting games from that. Because guess what? The game does a perfect job. It never tells you what to do anything. You just do it yourself because you're enjoying the game. And the game's fun, so you want to keep playing. But I want to do a big retrospective on Absolver one day. And yeah, you guys just wait for that video. It's going to be a banger. Before I signed off this video, I want to do my own thing. I wanted to suggest my own way to fix the quote unquote problem when it comes to fighting games as a product. So I believe I have $1 million idea, mainly because I think there's more than one way to solve this problem. The suggestions that Zix Wheatbakes makes would make an amazing game, mostly because I already know it has. It already has made an amazing game in Absolver, and I wish more people would steal from that. But there are way more ways to make fighting games a better product. And here's my $1 million idea. So with a little bit of context, right? With a little bit of context, I think a lot of people have been missing some of the point. A big point of what is popular in games right now. A lot of people make the excuse that fighting games are a little bit too ego destroying, I guess would be the best way to put it. Like, you never have anyone else to blame but yourself, right? When you're playing fighting games, 9 times out of 10 anyway. Whereas when you're playing team games, you know, you have teammates to blame for losses and stuff like that, which can definitely dampen the psychological effects of losing. But I think people are looking at this the wrong way. People look at that and think that fighting games are hard because you're by yourself and you have no one else to blame. In reality, I just don't think that actually addresses the problem. The problem with fighting games is that it's not that there's no one else to blame. There's nothing else to blame. It's the game, you versus the game. As much as people might want to mock about, oh, I lost to randomness, what fighting games need is more luck.
Let's go gambling! Aw, dang it. Aw, dang it. Aw, dang it.
You need more luck. It can't be 100% based on skill. At least for some reason in the fighting game community, we're obsessed with simply competitive fighting games. What's wrong with making games that are just for fun? Why does everything need to be competitive? Why does everything need to be quote-unquote balanced? Why does everything need to be... And, you know, this is just an idea, but the better person shouldn't always win. Not in every game. Not every game needs to be designed like that, right? So what I'm getting at here is that is the core component missing in fighting games that I haven't seen, I don't think at all ever, is luck. Luck. We need to add luck into fighting games. What do I mean by that? Well, when you're playing a team game, where's the luck? The luck is your teammates. The idea, the premise that the next game you'll get luckier, that you will get better teammates, and that if you don't, you can say, well, I got unlucky. You know, it wasn't my fault I couldn't carry, even though sometimes it probably was, because I was unlucky. That takes off so much onus off of you when your brain convinces yourself that it wasn't your fault you lost. As stupid as that sounds, unfortunately, that is how our brains work, right? And it's not even just team games, right? You look at stuff that is very popular right now, right? You got roguelikes popping off with massive concurrent players. And a lot of the time, those come down to, you know, they have a lot of element of luck, a lot of this like randomness that keeps you coming back, keeps you wanting to play, right? Because the next run, you never know what kind of crazy stuff you're going to get. And again, if we look at stuff like, I don't know, TFT, right? There is obviously a lot of skill in some auto battlers for sure, but there is some mitigation there that when you lose, when you might have made a bad mistake, but when you've lost, you can say, I was unlucky. I was unlucky. So how do we put luck into a fighting game? And no, I know what people say, right? I could just play Street Fighter 6 if I want to get lucky, you know? Sure, you can wake up and tech every shimmy attempt or every throw attempt, and then sometimes you're going to get shimmied, and you're going to feel like, damn, well, I just had to guess, so that was unlucky. But in your brain, you're the one who still made that decision, right? You still made that decision, so you're still penalizing yourself. You're still thinking, oh, that was me messing up. I got to guess better next time. But no, I mean like actual luck. I want to see the Bazaar as a fighting game. If anyone's ever played the Bazaar, you'll know what I mean. And suddenly it will kind of click. It will kind of click. And I mean it is like a design principle. Let me take it from the top, okay? Say, when you start the game, you have to pick out 3 archetypes. Maybe like an all-rounder, Shoto type of character, a grappler style character, and maybe like a rushdown style character. They have a very limited base moveset. You have 5 actions to take. Similar to roguelites, you might go certain pathways, you have to make a decision. You have 5 events before the end of the day. In each of these events, you could gain stat bonuses, okay, increase max HP, maybe increase damage. So you could get items that could give you passive bonuses. Something like simple, that's like, okay, your first EX move of the match costs no meter. Or maybe you just start with 2 bars of meter, something like that, right? And then on another event, maybe you learn special moves. You can go and learn special moves. You go to a shop, you can buy some special moves. You know, maybe I go to the shop and I see a gold ranking Hadouken. His Hadouken's way better than my bronze Hadouken, which I've currently got. It's got way less recovery. It does way more damage. It's way bigger. Things like that, right? It gets you excited. You see these moves, you're like, oh shit, okay, let me keep going. Maybe at some point in these 5 actions throughout the day, you fight like some sort of NPC enemy, and you can choose the difficulty, right? If you think you've got a good build going on, if you think you've got a strong build, you can fight like the boss enemy, and he's gonna mess you up if you're not either very talented or your build is OP. Okay. And then at the end of the day, guess what happens? Guess what happens? You face a real life opponent who's also in that same stage of the game as you. They have maybe 1 or 2 items. They have 1 or 2 special moves. Maybe they're playing the grappler archetype, but he's found a teleport move, right? He got very lucky in this first day, and he's playing Zangief, but he's got Darsim teleport, and he gets on top of you and he scoops you and you lose, and you're like, oh, well, that sucks. I just lost. But hey, I was unlucky. He was very lucky. Okay, no worries. We go to the next day. Okay, whatever. Same cycle repeats. You can make this extremely addicting gameplay loop. It's already been done in other games. You can make this so hype, right? And you can remove skill level by increasing the luck. You could really add, like, just open your mind to the possibilities. You could add anything, like, oh, this run's going really badly. Oh, I just got really lucky in this random item spawn, a 1% drop chance. I've gotten JP level 2 now, and I'm going to mess up my next opponent. I'm going to do round start level 2. He's going to be blocking my 55th whack-ass mix-up, and then he's dead. Like, that can happen. Or maybe you find a broken synergy. Maybe there's two items that are quite rare and you find both of them. Maybe you find like an item that gives you a passive that lets you throw while your opponent's in hit stun. So you could do like combos into grabs. Okay, that's cool. I'm playing the grappler. It's nice. But then maybe you get a special move that's Yun's grab, like from Third Strike, or maybe you get something like Jamie's command throw from Street Fighter 6, where it's a command grab you can combo out of. So suddenly you've got a 2-move infinite now. You can infinite someone, right? And you just got really lucky. You play out the rest of those runs, you infinite everyone. You're like, oh my god, I could have been fighting Daigo and I wouldn't have known because I just one-touch KO'd him. I just infinited him. You know, you could get so creative with these items. You know, you could have an item that's like, okay, combo damage down by 50%, but single hit damage up. So when you play the grappler, okay, my pokes are really strong. That's how I'm going to play now. And then at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter because guess what? Once you've hit in that 10th day and you got that 10-0 win streak with your really OP infinite touch build, that memory is going to be stuck in your mind. And then it runs over. It's time to start again. And you're like, hey, that was so much fun. I can't wait to just do another run. I can't wait to just play. I'm going to try doing this, but this time I'm going to play the rushdown character. And I'm going to try and get this. I'm going to try and get like some other infinite combo. That's the power of luck. That's the power it can have to drive and motivate people to play these games. We need more luck in fighting games. Not all fighting games. Of course, we need competitive fighting games too. That's super important. That is literally what the FGC is built on. But man, why can't we make better fighting games? Why can't we make more fun fighting games? Different fighting games? Innovation, guys. I think you know what I'm getting at here, right? If this is a tool exciting to you and you're like a fighting game developer or you want to pitch this idea to any developer, I think, unironically, I think it's $1 million idea. I think it really is. But this is just a suggestion, right? I was just thinking, would this make a good fighting game product? I think so, yes. I think this would make an excellent fighting game. I think this would be an excellent fighting game because people would play it and they wouldn't even realize they're playing a fighting game. That's the problem. Why is every fighting game just a 1v1 or 2v2 or, you know, tag, or like, why are we just so segmented and stuck in that our gameplay has to be in like you go into a lobby, you sit down in an arcade and you play another player? Why can't we get creative, right? Just like shooters are innovating with MOBA shooters and hero shooters and all this. Why have fighting games stagnated so much? Why? I don't understand. I don't understand why we can't have innovation. Why can't we make fun games that just happen to be fighting games? Why can't we translate that gameplay? Everyone says learning a fighting game is not any harder than learning any other game. It's just people play way more shooters. They play way more MOBAs and stuff like that because they're out there and they're popular or whatever. If we make more fighting games that aren't just sit down at a cab, ranked 1v1, we can do so much more. We can do so much more. And it doesn't even matter if this translates to more people getting into the FGC or being in competitive gaming, but it's gonna make people be playing more fighting games. So the next time a fighting game gets recommended to them on Steam, they're going to check it out. They might play it, you know, and they might have a great time. And then that's how we get people into the FGC. That's how we make fighting games a successful product.